Welcome back to Movies TV Mad, and you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, of course, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the dceu Daily. Very shortly, I'm going to explain to you why I would never swap the MCU success for my beloved DC Extended Universe, DCEU, the DC Live Action Universe. Please stay tuned to the end of the video for all today's DCEU updates. And the final part of today's DCEU Daily, I will react to the news that Superboy is bisexual. So please stay tuned for the whole of the video. Please subscribe and like, please. If you like me and you love the channel, support me, and please press like if you want to. Right, let's begin. Let me explain to you why I would never swap the success of the MCU for the, let's say, sometimes flawed, sometimes fantastic DCEU. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is an okay set of films, and it's very successful. And I will confess, sometimes I'm envious of their success. But would I swap what we've had thus far for their success and their movies? No, I am not envious of those movies. In fact, I state something, a hot take, a controversial take, that in fact they should be jealous of our movies. Of course, if any MCU stan or Kevin Feige was listening to this or watching this, they would laugh in my face. Why would we be jealous? Well, I'll tell you why. We have got Man of Steel, a perfect, beautiful masterpiece. Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, a masterpiece. The Suicide Squad, the theatrical cut, not David Ayer's movie, but I don't think that's a masterpiece, but I actually bloody well like that movie. It has some great themes in it. For me, it works. And then you've got Wonder Woman, one of the best comic book movies in my opinion of all time. Emotion, action, you know, she's a gladiator in that film. And you know, Justice League is there. Justice League is a calamity. It's embarrassing. I don't think any other franchise has done anything as bad as Justice League. But at the end of the day, when you stan a franchise, you accept it for its flaws, warts and alls. But let's chuck Justice League out and put Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut in there. Fucking masterpiece. I love it. Aquaman, to me, is a masterpiece. Now, Shazam isn't a masterpiece, but it's a great piece of comic book movie entertainment. Congratulations to the fantastic, irrepressible David F. Sandberg, who always likes to make his fans and fans of DC smile. That was a great movie for families and for children. You know, I can't explain to you on this video how much love my nieces and nephews have for that movie. So it's great. And then we took a little bit of a downturn trying to catch up with the MCU, as we did with Justice League, which gave us calamitous results. Wonder Woman 84 and Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn simply are not my type of films. I think they're okay in places, and I don't think they're a disaster, but I think ultimately they're just placeholder movies while Walter Hamada and the team were working out their plan for a multiverse strategy. So I accept them. And you know, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is a really good film, as we've mentioned many times on this channel. But how many have we got? 10 movies altogether? Something like that. 9, 10 movies, whatever it is. Anyway, right, so we got all these movies, and I kind of don't like a lot. They're not my favourites ever. And movies don't have to be your favourites ever. You can appreciate aspects of them. And I appreciate aspects of Wonder Woman 84. The final act is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I love it. And there's great elements in Birds of Prey. But even if I hated those two movies, I've still got Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam, and I've got James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and unrelated to the DCEU, I've got Joker. We don't need to go into Joker again and talk about what a masterpiece that is. You should feel very privileged in the 21st century that we've had 7 or 8 or whatever great DC movies. These are written and directed by people who care, that have put everything into what they did. I don't think the same love went into Wonder Woman 84 and Birds of Prey, but you'd have to ask those creatives about that. But the other films, you know, were made because these people love DC, and they're very, very special films. And if you're asking me to swap that with the MCU success, I reject it. So I will never, ever want to swap the DCEU for the MCU, because the DCEU is, I like the fact that it's flawed, that it's been a struggle for us to fight against other fans and, you know, fight the corner of Zack Snyder and all the other writers and directors and everyone who starred and, you know, been in these movies. I like that. I like that where these rebels fighting for the dignity of Zack Snyder and these other creatives as well. Because they are mostly, the DCEU has really, really good films. Now, we've spoken about two films I don't like as much as the others. But I ask MCU fans, how many films in the MCU have you gone back to watch? I bet you there's a lot more MCU movies. I know they've obviously made more and there's more content, but I bet you there's a lot more bland films in that franchise that you'd rather not watch. You know, For the Dark World. Some people don't even like the first four. I think it's okay, but there are many films that you could pick apart and say, these are not very good films. And I know the MCU stands will pick apart Man of Steel, BVS, and all the rest of the films. You can pick them apart because ultimately every movie, every piece of art is flawed because it's made by human hands. And that's okay. It's okay for films to have plot holes and flaws. That's okay. It's not okay to go through the motions when you're making a piece of art for people, because although it's all about business as well as entertainment, ultimately you've got to make good movies. And the movies that I've said that I love from the DCEU, and I'm related to the DCEU Joker, a lot of hard sweat, blood and tears went into those movies. And a lot of the actors actually love being in those movies. Ben Affleck really loves Batman, you know, has a bat cave underneath his house or whatever, right? He is a passionate fan. And he worked so hard with BVS and the Snyder Cut, right? Those two films. That's how he feels about Batman. And they're great takes. Now we've discussed the issues of Superman killing or Batman killing. Are they good films? Did I enjoy them? Did you enjoy them? Who was it when I was on live one day? One of my favourite subscribers, one of them, just in case anyone gets annoyed, Bobcat. He was slaughtering Zack Snyder, and then when the kind of a new Ultimate Cut was released, right, in 4.3, he commented on one of my live videos, actually, I really like that film. Because he took his bias away and said, actually, this guy's a fucking good director. These are good films. He had a great vision. No, it wasn't chewing gum that was going to run out of flavour eventually like the MCU. But they're bloody good films. Now, everybody doesn't have to think they're bloody good films, but I do. No film makes nearly $1 billion. Even if that's not what Warner Brothers wanted from it, no film makes that kind of figure if it's a load of crap. And we know it was bumped up to that figure because it's Batman and Superman, but ultimately people went back to watch that film. People who liked it. They're good films. I'm proud of the films. I'm proud of being a DCEU stan. And I'm not deluded enough just to want to stay in one place. I embrace the multiverse strategy. I embrace a couple of black versions of Superman. I embrace a Latino actor playing Blue Beetle. I embrace a Latino Supergirl. I think it's great. I think it's fabulous. I think all corners of society should be represented as long as those artists are doing it for the right reasons and doing it the right way. So no, you can keep your Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't want it. I want my DCEU. And now we embrace the future. Men's Health magazine has done a great spread about the Peacemaker series coming to HBO Max in January, and actually it was James Gunn who actually shared it, so I'm going to give it a read and see what they have to say. John Cena and James Gunn's Peacemaker series could be 2022's best superhero show, by Evan Romano of Men's Health magazine. The follow-up to The Suicide Squad, which will land on HBO Max in early 2022, could wind up being better than anything Marvel has in store. Wow, that's a big statement. It feels like we've been seeing photos and clips of John Cena as Peacemaker in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad for years at this point. Now that the movie has finally been out for a few months, it's clear his portrayal was worth the wait. The movie is an R-rated maniacal blood massacre of fun, and Cena's super committed performance as the brutal, darkly hilarious Peacemaker. "I cherish peace with all my heart," he says in one early scene. "I don't care how many men, women and children I need to kill to get it." It's one of the big reasons why, if you loved his character, we have even more good news. Peacemaker will return, an 8-part spin-off series on HBO Max this January. We've known for a while that Cena is a deeply gifted comic actor. His performances in movies like Trainwreck, Sisters and Blockers all ask a lot of him, and each time he's been absolutely up to the task. In The Suicide Squad, Cena gets paired with a writer-director in James Gunn who knows how to perfectly bring that comedic talent into equilibrium. With Cena's obvious action star bona fides, after all, we saw how well Gunn used Dave Bautista in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, although Dave Bautista doesn't like the way he's used for comedy so much because it's not really faithful to what's in the comic with that character. So it seems like they were a match made in heaven here. The forthcoming Peacemaker series was written entirely by Gunn himself, who said normally he wouldn't have taken a break between The Suicide Squad and his next project, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Guardian of the Galaxy Holiday Special, but, well, he had nothing better to do with his time this past year. Normally I would have been taking more of a break in this space, but it's COVID, I'm stuck at home, so I wrote a TV series. He wrote it in a September 2020 tweet. So, yeah, if you enjoyed Cena in The Suicide Squad, there's more on the way directly to your TV screen or laptop or phone or whatever floats your boat. Just a heads up, if you haven't yet watched The Suicide Squad, this is probably a good place to check out. There will be quite a few major movie spoilers from here on out. Is there a Peacemaker trailer yet? Not a trailer per se quite yet, but HBO Max did release a first glimpse at the series in form of an exclusive clip shared to YouTube. The clip captioned, "He's got the looks," and "Car and the best sidekick ever, all in the name of peace," shows Peacemaker meeting up at a dinner for some grub with the team that Amanda Waller placed him with in the credit scene of The Suicide Squad. Peacemaker shows up in full costume in his striped patriotic car with a pet eagle named Eagly. He reveals and is meet with some good old-fashioned ball-busting ribbing. The show clearly is leaning heavily into the comedy that Gunn and Cena have established with the character, and maybe leaning a bit away from the whole murderous traitor thing, for the time being at least. If you want more of a behind-the-scenes look, or most likely the first glimpse at anything coming down the pipeline, it's going to be a good idea to keep your eyes on Gunn's Instagram too. He's very, very active and always sharing all sorts of stuff that's fun for fans. His Twitter ain't bad either. In short, watch this space. Let's see if there's any more to this article. In the EW piece, Gunn explained that he had decided to kill Peacemaker off in the Suicide Squad movie, but then did something he usually hates, added a post-credit scene to bring the character back from the dead. "I did exactly the thing I hate when other filmmakers do it," he said, but I did it. I'll have to live with the repercussions, which is the most incredible TV show people will ever see. He also teased a new sidekick for the Peacemaker named Vigilante, set to be played by Freddie Stromer. Like Peacemaker, this is a character with a deep comic history who's not quite as well known as some other DC counterparts, like say Aquaman or Superman. This is exciting. It's the kind of semi-obscure pop culture canon that Gunn has thrived with going back to Guardians of the Galaxy. Who's going to be in the Peacemaker cast? Let's get the obvious out of the way. First, of course, the lead of Peacemaker will be the man, the myth, the legend himself, John Cena. The entire cast of the Suicide Squad came to play, but Cena particularly showed off some badass range with hilarious moments and a really well played heel turn. It's hard to imagine anyone not excited to see more of this character. Also included in the cast, fairly obviously from the credits scene, are Steve Agee and Jennifer Holland, both reprising their roles from the Suicide Squad. From there, the cast also includes Orange is the New Black star Danielle Brooks, Terminator 2 Judgment Day villain Robert Patrick, Harry Potter actor Freddie Stroma playing the character Vigilante, and Nigerian-British actor Chukwudi Iwuji. Who will direct Peacemaker episodes? As we've mentioned above, James Gunn himself wrote all 8 episodes and directed 5 of them. The other 3 episodes are directed by veterans in their own right. One of them is helmed by Jody Hill, who's most famous for his collaborations with Danny McBride, including Eastbound and Down and The Righteous Gemstones. That's a solid indicator that Peacemaker will 100% keep the humour that we loved in the Suicide Squad. The other directors are Brad Anderson, who directed Christian Bale in The Machinist. Wow, that is a great director. As well as episodes of shows like Boardwalk Empire and The Wire. And Rosemary Rodriguez, who's helmed episodes of The Good Wife and The Walking Dead. So, you know, the credentials are there for all these other directors. What will the Peacemaker series be about? The spin-off is expected to tell Peacemaker's origin story, likely through flashbacks. We say likely because as anyone who watched the Suicide Squad and stuck around for the movie's post-credit scenes knows, the series is directly set up right then and there. In that post-credit scene, we see John economist Steve Agee and Amelia Harcourt, Jennifer Holland, both of whom have been working alongside against Amanda Waller, Viola Davis for the duration of the movie, walking through a hospital wing before they look through a window for our big reveal. Peacemaker is alive. Apparently, he was found in the rubble and everyone was shocked. His heart was still beating, as were the viewers who saw him get shot in the neck by Bloodsport Idris Elba not much earlier. Economist and Harcourt discuss Peacemaker's heroics, or lack thereof, with the Doctor and reveal that they know what's happening. Waller knows we double-crossed her and she's getting back at us by saddling us with this douchebag, he says. It's at this point that we get our first real hint at what the Peacemaker series is all about. The Doctor asks what the two want him for. Just to save the fucking world. That's all. I love that. Harcourt says, fade to black. It will be interesting. It will be an interesting ride to follow after seeing Peacemaker's fairly villainous turn in the Suicide Squad. This will 100% be an anti-hero story, and hopefully it maintains the same level of obscene, often comic intensity as in the movie. And with Gunn writing the whole series, we're confident that it will. And I think that's the whole article, which it is. So let's just talk about this just for a little while. Listen, I've said before, and this is not me getting at James Gunn. I like James Gunn. I think he's a very talented storyteller stroke creative filmmaker. But I believe he only knows one way of telling a story. Now, I think this is a good thing. I think it was great for the Suicide Squad, and it will be great for Peacemaker. It's not just going to be a comedy. We're really going to like and get to know Peacemaker, aka John Cena, in this series, and I like that. But he's going up against a supernatural threat. What's also exciting, James Gunn has hinted that this plays out in the shared DCEU universe, which I think is great as well, which has kind of captured my imagination, piqued my big imagination as well. And so I think it's going to be great. I'm glad this is like a sequel. This is the Suicide Squad sequel. It's amazing he went to Warner Brothers with this and Walter Hamada, and they said yes. Because before any numbers came out for the Suicide Squad, he gets his sequel. Now, you can call the Suicide Squad a cinematic failure, but it's not a failure all round. It's made the studio a hell of a lot of bucks because of its day and date. And we've spoken about that so many times, haven't we? How much money day and date has been worth to this studio and other studios. And I've already told you, I know how much money they're making from this. and it's a lot of money. Let's try and imagine how much this film would have made in movie theatres without any day and date. I think this movie could have grossed around 400 million, 500 million within a pandemic era. I think it would have done that. Maybe a bit more. I think it maybe would have done 600 million, 650 if there was no COVID-19, which is solid, but people again would have called it a flop, especially with the huge box office. But as I've said, that's not James Gunn's fault. It's not because it's a bad movie. The Suicide Squad IP doesn't get the broader audience that excited. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy does, because it's in space and it's James Gunn. It's got that mixture. It works. They're in a cool spaceship. That's why. It's the IP rather than anything to do with the movie. We're saying, well, Mick, why did Suicide Squad, the first Suicide Squad, the theatrical version, do better? Well, it did better because it had Harley Quinn and the Joker and it had Will Smith in it. That's why. Now, Harley Quinn's in this film, but it wasn't enough because Harley Quinn isn't the draw everybody thinks she is. The Joker always pulls big box office to anything he does live action. It's as simple as that. But I'm really looking forward to Peacemaker, and this Saturday at DC Fandom we will finally see a full trailer, and I can't wait. And now we have an article about my favourite subject right now. What's my favourite subject? Take a guess. What's my favourite subject? The Flash movie starring Ezra Miller and directed by the fantastic Andy Muschietti. So, the Flash movie footage reveals Ezra Miller's Barry Allen in a lab by Rachel Labonte of Screen Rant. Now, this is the picture we saw the other day. I think I might have mentioned it. And I kind of thought, well, what if this is a multiversal version of Clark Kent? It could be, right? That looks like Ezra Miller. That would be a lot of fun. But anyway, he's in a lab, so he's probably not Clark Kent. It's the glasses. That's why. Anyway, footage from next year's long-awaited The Flash reveals Ezra Miller's Barry Allen hanging out in a lab. Though Miller joined the DCEU years ago, his first solo movie has been a long time coming. After dealing with director changes and release date delays, The Flash finally kicked off production earlier this year with Andy Muschietti at the helm. Miller will step back into the role of Barry alongside fellow DCEU alums Kiersey Clemons, Iris West, and Ben Affleck, Batman. Even more excitingly, The Flash will feature highly anticipated return of Michael Keaton as Batman. That's right, there are two Batmen in this movie, maybe even more. Most plot details for The Flash are still being kept under wraps, though it's certain the movie will be depicting its own version of the Flashpoint storyline from the comics. In the original source material, Barry uses his super speed to run back in time and prevent the tragic death of his mother. However, this leads to multiversal consequences. The Flash is expected to follow a similar arc, but with its own DCEU twist. The movie is currently scheduled for release in November 2022. This Saturday marks the second annual DC Fandom, the go-to event for all things DC. The virtual convention will feature breaking news and first looks at upcoming films and television shows, including The Flash. In a recently revealed trailer, Miller can be spotted in Barry Allen. Let's say that again. Miller can be spotted in Barry Allen dress while at a lab. Perhaps this is Star Laboratories. Fans might find out later this week. You can see the trailer down below. The Flash footage comes at 37 seconds in the video. Right, yeah, this is just the, let me explain it to you because, you know, Rachel hasn't done that very well. This is just the trailer I showed you the other day on my big TV of DC Fandom. And there's a little sequence, but we've all seen that picture of him with the glasses anyway. So far, Barry's DCEU appearance has been kept to the ensemble efforts, Justice League plus Zack Snyder's director's cut, and a quick cameo in Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. Because of that, the DCEU has so many things it can still explore with Barry. By the way, she didn't mention that he's also got a quick cameo in Suicide Squad. Was it the 2016 Suicide Squad, which was taken away from David Ayer and kind of re-edited by other people, but he did have a great cameo as Ben Affleck's Batman and Bruce Wayne did. And that's part of many reasons why I love that movie. That includes his work at Star Labs and perhaps his first introductions to his powers. The Flash isn't expected to be a direct origin story, but it could still touch upon how he got them in the first place. I imagine that to be the case. That might be the opening scene we see this Saturday at DC Fandom. Yes, this time next week we would have seen a sequence of this hotly anticipated movie, and I can't wait. And I'll be talking about it, of course, for the rest of time until we see this movie here at Movies TV Mad in the DCEU Daily. The bit of Flash footage revealed in the DC Fandom trailer looks to be a part of a behind-the-scenes featurette, which will likely be shown at the convention on Saturday. The Flash's production is just about wrapped up, but it still seems a bit early to get something like a clip or an official trailer. I heard we're going to see the opening scene. I could be wrong, let's see. But it still seems a bit early to get something like a clip or an official trailer. A behind-the-scenes video will still give fans a peek at what The Flash has in store. In addition to showing more of Miller's latest outing as Barry, it could reveal the first official looks at Keaton and new Supergirl actress Sasha Calle. In other words, those looking forward to The Flash should probably tune into DC Fandom to learn more about this movie. Yeah, you'd be absolutely nuts, insane to miss DC Fandom, because you all who watch these videos love DC, right? You're proper geeks and nerds. If you're not proper geeks and nerds, it doesn't matter. Everyone is welcome on this channel. Of course you are, and you know I love you because I'm just like you. I'm not an arse kisser, I'm not a pundit, you know, I'm not a journalist. I do these videos and get about 30 people watching them, and it doesn't matter how many people watch them. I love this shit, and I love talking about this shit, and it's not shit, it's not bad shit, it's great shit. So bring on this Saturday for DC Fandom. Let's see what they've got up their sleeves for us, but the future of the DCEU is in great hands, I can assure you of that. So away from the DCEU and onto DC Comics themselves. Yesterday it was announced that Superboy would come out as bisexual. Now recently Superboy has now become Superman. He's taken the mantle of Superman, and there's been a few issues as well, and there's been a lot of hype and people have loved them. Exclusive, DC's new Superman, John Kent, comes out as bisexual. I want to read this article and give you my take on it. The comic book industry has worked to increase LGBTQ+ representation in recent years, and DC is taking a major step forward in 2021. IGN can exclusively reveal that the current Superman, John Kent, is coming out as bisexual in the upcoming Superman, Son of Kal-El 5. For those not up to date on the current DC line, John officially inherited the mantle of Superman from his father following the events of the Future State crossover. While Action Comics explores Clark Kent's adventures off-world, the recently launched Superman Son of Kal-El focuses on the 17-year-old John as he grapples with the biggest responsibility of his young life, but at least he has someone new to share that life with. Warning, the rest of this story contains some plot spoilers for Superman Son of Kal-El 4 and 5. Fans of the series probably won't be surprised to learn John is entering into a relationship with Jay Nakamura, a hacktivist who idolizes John's mother, Lois, and has already lent his new friend a helping hand. And as this image shows, the two friends will become something more than they share. Their first kiss in issue 5. Oh, they've blanked it out. Why have they blanked it out? It's really good artwork. Oh, well, never mind. That's what it is. I don't know if this... There you go. There you go. This is the big picture going around the internet. I think it's great artwork. Oh, I've actually left the article. I'll come back again. So where are we? Right. Come on, come on. Sorry about this. We will get there. So we go down, right. So, over the years in the industry, it probably won't surprise you to hear I've had queer characters and storylines rejected. I felt like I was letting down people. I loved every time this... I felt like I was letting down people I loved every time this happened. Writer Tom Taylor tells IGN, but we are in a very different and much more welcome place today than we were 10 or 11, 5 years ago. When I was asked if I wanted to write a new Superman with a new #1 for the DC Universe, I knew replacing Clark with another straight, white saviour could be a real opportunity missed. I love the way they talk. I don't love the way they talk, but, you know, it's like... white people are scum now, and it's a bad thing if we... Instead of, right, what they could have said, this is the problem, right, with extreme leftists, because I think their hearts are in the right place. Instead of saying that, saying, I think it's, you know, it's instead of just... basically, instead of, you know, representing the same, you know, kind of demographic that we have been for so long, maybe it would have been an opportunity missed if we didn't have a bi version of Superboy in this story. I like that. But the way they say it and the way Tom says it here, it's like white, you know, white straight people are kind of evil, and yet another one. It just doesn't come across that well. And this is the problem with the far left. They don't know how to talk. And everything they say sounds so weaponized. And this is the problem. And ultimately, they come from a good place. They just don't talk like they're from a good place. I've always said everyone needs heroes. And everyone deserves to see themselves in their heroes. And this is another discussion I had on the Doctor Who Daily yesterday. It's kind of, what do we want? Do we want to see ourselves, or do we want to see characters we wish we were? And that's the kind of difference here. I think we should be doing a bit of both, a bit of variety. Again, the extreme left don't see it like that. Everyone should see themselves, but I don't see themselves. You could say, oh, well, there's lots of straight guys out there because I'm a straight guy. How many Greek Cypriot superheroes is there? Because it probably isn't possible to represent every kind of demographic in every part of the world, right? And that's where people get upset. Today's Superman, the strongest superhero on the planet, is coming out. It's a pretty big deal doing it with John Kent as Superman adds artist John Timms, as we have seen John grow up in front of our eyes. It will be interesting to see him not only trying to find himself as a person, but a global superhero in the complex atmosphere of modern life. On the other hand, I hope this kind of thing will not be seen as a big deal in the future. But if it's a big deal in 2021, how far have we come? You could visualize how it could pan in the future when the most powerful man in the world is part of the LGBT community. So many things are on the horizon and beyond. Given Jay's journalistic leanings, there are certainly comparisons to be drawn between this relationship and the classic Lois Lane Clark Kent dynamic. However, Taylor stresses that Jay plays a much different and more proactive role in Superman's world. Really? Maybe you should go and see Man of Steel. Lois Lane played a really proactive role in that film. Jay has his own fight, Taylor says. He's obviously an effective journalist, and Lois Lane is his hero, but Jay is also a refugee from Gomorrah. So his experience also reflects Clark's. While this has fortunately changed over the years, historically Lois has often fulfilled a damsel role. And don't forget, a woman can never be saved by a man. This is something else, which is a terrible take by these people. So, they're, you know, terrible. He's also a refugee from Gomorrah. So his experience also reflects Clark's. While this has fortunately changed over the years, historically Lois has often fulfilled a damsel role. Jay Nakamura will never be that. He and John will tackle many things side by side. So you're never allowed to need help. What does this say to people who need help, who are suffering with mental illness, if basically, oh, because this is a, you know, because this is a bisexual character, you know, these characters can't be weak, can't need help, basically don't need saving. Again, the extreme left have got terrible takes, because what happens to gay people and people from this community sometimes when they are feeling weak and they do need saving and they do need help? You're telling them they have to be strong. This is so bad, and this is the problem with the extreme left. And they're all over the comic book industry and all over the entertainment industry. This also plays into another reveal coming up in Son of Kal-El. Jay himself has superhuman powers, making him both invaluable ally to the new Superman and a companion for a young man who's never had much of a chance to build a life for himself in the regular world. Doesn't it take something out of the relationship if they both have superpowers though? Due to John's shifting age and spending time in the future, John doesn't really have any friends in the present day who are his own age. Taylor says he doesn't have his own cast. He has a best friend in Damien who will remain integral in our series. But it was important to me that we gave John another close confidant and someone who can support him. What was most important was making Jay Nakamura formidable in his own right. finding the balance in their relationship so they could be equals rather than having Jay be too reliant on John, because we can't have that now. We mustn't rely on people. It's not a good message though, is it? This is why Jay's own powers are revealed in issue 4, and we learn he can't be harmed. That means of everyone in John's life, Jay is the only person John doesn't need to protect. It means their relationship is an equal one, but built on mutual support. This is the problem, right? Even if I had superpowers, I'd still need support somehow. In here, I need support. You need support in here. It doesn't matter how invulnerable you are, but they are obsessed. And the only reason they care about this other character being on an equal level is because, you know, obviously the character's from, you know, a refugee background and bisexual. That's the only reason. If this was an ordinary straight man, they wouldn't care that this character was strong or not. And here lies the problem. Both creators are well known for their work with Harley Quinn, Taylor in the pages of Injustice, Gods Among Us, and Tim's drawing numerous issues of Harley's monthly series. Given that Harley was probably DC's most high-profile LGBT character prior to this news, we were curious if their experience with the character has informed their work developing John and Jay's relationship. Is interesting with Harley because originally her and Mr. J, Joker, were together. Was she bi then? Was she gay then? Did she like women as well? I don't know her as well as some of you do, so let me know. Or did they move her away from being straight to bi or gay? It's an interesting topic, isn't it? Harley is a vastly different character than any other character in comics Taylor admits. John and Jay are very different people. What I will say is Harley was the first character I was able to write as openly bisexual through our own universe of Injustice. Yeah, you basically made her. You decided she would be bisexual. We were unable to tell stories and show relationships that maybe weren't being depicted elsewhere at the time. And I was honoured to have the chance to write the marriage of Harley and Poison Ivy last year in Injustice Year Zero. Relationships in Harley's love life are always a crazy ride, Tim says. Still, the main lesson to be as neutral as possible, going with actions from within the characters, driven by emotions and letting them be. I hope to achieve the same with John and Jay, although it is always complicated to keep the stoic exterior of a superhero character combined with strong feelings that will not always be rage or pain. It is a welcome challenge. The latest twist is all part of John Kent's larger journey in the DC universe in 2021 and beyond. Can he truly live up to his father's legacy? Can he find the balance between costume and civilian lives that's proven so elusive so far? And perhaps most importantly, can he figure out what kind of Superman the world needs? I think Clark said it best when he left Earth in John's hands. Clark was the Superman of tomorrow. John is the Superman for the days after. Taylor says the question for John and for our creative team is, what should a new Superman fight for today? Well, obviously, you're going to say identity politics and things like that, and not saving people and not saving the world, because that's your mentality. I'll talk about it in a minute. Can a 17-year-old Superman battle giant robots while ignoring the climate crisis, you see? Of course not. Can someone... Well, no, hang on a minute. I think one of the things that actually one of the writers of Superman the movie said, and I forgot his name now, and he's a legend, right? Without him, Superman the movie wouldn't have been so... Tom Mankiewicz, that's right. When Christopher Reeve talked about, you know, doing a Superman story where he rids the world of nuclear, you know, tackles nuclear disarmament, you know, Tom said, Chris, never tackle things that, you know, you can't solve in the real world. Keep it fictional. And I think, you know, how does Superman tackle the climate crisis? Tell me. He can stand there and make a few speeches, and that's totally fine. But when you go that deep into the real world, then there is no escapism. And that is the problem with the extreme left. They want to force our heads in the real world. That is a problem. Of course not. Can someone with super sight and super hearing ignore injustices beyond his borders? Can he ignore the plight of asylum seekers? There you go, you see. It's all about identity politics all the time. And that's the problem. Now, I would love to see Superman tackle, you know, asylum seekers and, you know, help those people in an, you know, in a comic book story or a movie or a TV show. But you're saying someone with super sight, can he ignore these things? Superman is still one person. He can't solve all the problems. When asking these questions, it's important to acknowledge that John isn't just the son of Kal-El, he's also the son of Lois Lane. Of course, you can't forget that. John is the son of the fiercest, most effective journalist on the planet. With that comes a strong sense of right and wrong, something Superman always had anyway without Lois Lane, but anyway. An instinctive dislike of corruption and a strong desire for the truth to win over misinformation. But John is young and passionate, and sometimes how he tackles things will be a bit heavy-handed. And just like we see in our world, when young people speak truth to power, or their version of truth, it ruffles the feathers of certain old... Now this is brilliant, because not only do the extreme left hate white men, they hate older people. So yeah, it ruffles the feathers of certain older people who are used to being the loudest voice in the room, right? Because sometimes, don't forget, older people may be right. Sometimes younger people may be right. But this is the problem. It's all about demographics and groups. They don't care about the individual. They don't care about you and me. That's the problem. Superman Son of Kal-El 5 will release in print and digitally on Tuesday, November the 9th. So let's unpackage this quickly, because I've run 10 minutes longer than I normally do, and you probably already got bored. This is perfectly fine. Of course it is. And it doesn't, they don't, Tom Taylor doesn't need my permission to make Superboy bisexual. It's fine. But we ask the motivations of Tom Taylor. Why has he done this? Because let's not forget, the top trending topic in today's society on social media, of course, is identity politics. Now, I'm rather old-fashioned. I'm surprised that child poverty, child hunger, child abuse, world poverty, things like this are no longer the #1 news headline, the #1 trending topic. Why? Why is identity politics more important than child poverty? Because the extreme left and the extreme right have stolen the conversations. So all you see is identity politics, and they trigger us, whichever side it is, we react to them, and that conversation becomes that. Then the extreme left take over the entertainment industry, although they've always run the entertainment industry, but now they've taken things to another level. And now they tell you that you must see yourself in stories. That it's not about you seeing a character you can never become, but saying, wow, I'm inspired by this character is my hero, I wish I could do this, and while I'm watching or reading this, I am in this world, I am this character. That's the whole fantasy element, that's the escapism element. But creatives and writers and directors now have taken that away from you and me, and it will continue to be taken away from you. But at the end of the day, there's always a deeper agenda with these people, and that's the problem. It's not a big deal that Superboy is bisexual, and I'm happy for everyone from that community who gets to see themselves when they open up a comic book. If that means something to you, that's great, and that's brilliant, and that's beautiful. But it's always the agenda that goes with it, because there's always a little snark about older people, not being able to raise their voice over younger people. But younger people are not always right, and older people are not always wrong, and vice versa. What it is with the extreme left as well, it's this kind of, basically you either are or you aren't. What is the famous line from the Star Wars prequels, Revenge of the Sith? Only Siths deal with absolutes, and the extreme left deal with absolutes. There is an element of them who do this purposely, because this will trigger people. It shouldn't really trigger you, because that means maybe you have an issue with the LGBTQ plus community. Maybe you don't want Superboy to be bi, or whatever. I don't know. But ultimately, I don't have an issue, and I think people are reading these comics and enjoying these comics, but there's always a deeper meaning to what they're doing here. Because you go on Twitter and you see the comments of things like this IGN article, and you see how angry people are. There's no need for anyone to be angry, and the more angry you get, the more they're going to do it, because it proves that us and our generation and our gender are hateful people who hate other corners of society. So don't give them what they want. Let them do this, which you can't stop them anyway. It is what it is. It's fine. It's cool to represent different corners of society. But the issue is, when you start replacing bi and gay, So when you put them in the place of straight, that's the problem. I want to see a world in our stories where everyone is represented. I don't want to be told, well, straight white dudes dominated entertainment and stories for so many years, so now they're being replaced. Because that isn't representation, that isn't inclusion, that's revenge. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.